Hi everyone, Master Liciaga here from Dinoto Karate Center. Welcome to another one of my shows, the Black Belt Strong Zone. And in this video, I'm going to share 13 things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids. And then I'll share my top three. So I will go through them very quickly. Again, I'm not going to go deep into any one of these areas, but I will share my top three of them. Okay, and so I just thought I'd share that. Now, we all want the best for our children. We know that in the reality of the world can be very tough. Matter of fact, it's tough. And I was saying this yesterday to our students at Dinoto Karate Center, is that whatever you think as of the world as being tough and hard, and people will say life is hard. You're absolutely right. And that's what I was telling the kids. And then I asked the kids, okay, how many of you guys put your hands in the air if you agree with this, that life is tough, that life is hard? And about 90% of the kids in the classrooms in the course of the day, I was teaching at DKC, about 90% of them put their hands in the air and agreed with that life is tough. And then I added this. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. I agree with you. Life is tough. But here's the thing. It's a lot harder than you think it is. Life is tough. So you have to train yourself to be tough, mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally resilient and tough and strong. And I told them that's why you're here. That's why you are in this program, our martial arts program. And so today I want to talk about 13 things that most of the parents that I've met would agree that they don't do these things, what they don't do. Okay, and I asked my wife this morning to give me her top three. She gave me five, and out of the five that she chose, she gave me the top three, and I'll share that with you as well. Okay, so let me go through the list very quickly. Okay, guys, let me just go through very quickly. Let me bring up my notes over here. And again, these are things that parents don't do. Number one, they do not condone the victim mentality. Okay, the victim mentality, do not condone that. Okay, number two is parenting out of guilt. Parents that raise mentally strong kids, they do not parent out of guilt. Okay. Okay. Number three, things that parents don't do when they want to raise mentally strong kids is that they don't make kids the center of their universe. They do not make children the center of their universe. Okay. And number four is allowing fear to dictate choices. Parents do not allow kids to use fear to dictate their choices. Okay, and then number five of 13 things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids is they do not give their kids power over them. Parents do not give their children power over them. Do not let them see you sweat. Number six of the 13, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Like I say, I am not going to explain it. Okay, I'll go deeper on the three things that I choose out of these 13. But number six of the 13 things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids is this: expecting perfection. They do not expect perfection from their children. And number seven of the 13, letting kids avoid responsibility. Number seven of the 13 things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids, they do not allow their children to avoid their responsibilities. Number eight is shielding their children from pain. Shielding their kids from pain. Number 10 of the 13 of things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids is feeling responsible for their kids' emotions. Parents that raise mentally strong kids do not let themselves feel responsible for their children's emotions. And number 10 is parents don't prevent their kids from making mistakes. Parents don't do that. They want to raise mentally strong kids. They do not prevent their kids from making their mistakes. Number 11, wrapping it up there. Okay, is parents don't confuse discipline with punishment. Do not confuse discipline with punishment. And number 12, oh gosh, all these things, I just want to stop and go deeper into them. And I just don't want to use this time. I want to get on here and give you guys points and give you some 13 things that parents don't do, so that maybe you can think about that. Number 12 is this: taking shortcuts to avoid discomfort, taking the easy road. Parents that don't do this if they want to raise mentally strong kids. They do not take shortcuts to avoid discomfort. And number 13 of the 13 things that parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids is they do not lose sight of their core values. Don't lose sight of their core values. Okay, so I'm curious, what out of these 13, which one is your number 1, number 2, and number 3? I know my wife shared with me, I wrote it down over here. I asked her right before we came live, I asked her, out of these, I went through the list just like I did with you guys. Which ones jump out at you right away? Right away, I want to hear what your top 3 would be. And so she gave me 5 initially, and out of the 5, she chose these 3. No, she chose perfection, number 6. Okay, then she chose they do not allow perfection to stop them. Just because their kid's not perfect, they don't expect kids to be perfect, and they don't demand perfection from their kids. Number 10 is my wife said, to allow their children to make their mistakes and learn from the mistakes. And then number 13, the last one, okay, the last one is that they don't lose sight. Parents don't lose sight of their core values. And so that's what my wife said, and we were pretty much on point on that. There's a couple of things. There's 2. I think one of them, the number 13, both my wife and I totally agreed on 100%. Not losing sight of your core values. What you know is right, you stand on it. Your core values, your core belief system. Both my wife and I are on the same page on this. And though my wife and I, like every other mom and dad, we have disagreements. But one thing we do agree on is our core values, and we build our relationship. We build everything on those core values. So we never, ever lose sight of that. No, well, let me back a bit. Of course, we're not perfect. So we may lose sight of that, but we always come back to that to get us back on track. If we get off track, we come back on track by remembering what our core values are. And many parents, I know many parents that I know that are in our community are instilling values, and they hold these values deep in their hearts, and they teach it to their children. And not only do they speak it to their children, they lead by example. And so instead of getting so wrapped up in the day-to-day chaos of life, and don't forget what your core values are and stand on that, and make sure that your priorities are in order, and teach that to your children, and make sure your priorities reflect the things that you value most in life. And that's, for me, is like number 1. Even though it's number 13 on this list, that was my number 1, to make sure that my priorities are always accurate and they're in line with my core values, and that I let my children know what those core values are, and that gives them power, empowers my children, and gives them why I do what I do and my meaning for life. And so my students, my own children, yes, even our students at Dinoto Karate Center, I want people to see, I want my children to see, I want our students to see and know, but more importantly, see what my core values are by how I speak, how I treat them, and how I live my life. So that's one of my number 1 from the 13 of things that I don't do if I want to be a parent, to raise my children to be mentally strong. I don't lose sight of what my core values are. And another thing is that I chose was I don't allow fear to dictate choices. I know there's fear there. Fear is a very powerful weapon for us, because it'll keep us from things that will harm us, because we have the fight and flight aspect of our human nature, but we also have a mind where we can consider and then move forward intelligently. Like a first line of defense for our students that we teach at DKC is awareness. And then once you become aware of a situation, you assess the situation. And once you've assessed the situation, you move forward with the right appropriate action. And fear factors in there. However, fear will not dictate my choices. And this is what I want to teach my children. And parents that want to raise mentally strong children, do not allow fear to dictate their choices. They move forward courageously with a brave heart, standing firm and strong on their core values, and they move forward and they lead the way, lead from the front. That's what I believe in, leading from the front. My wife and I, we lead from the front, and we tell our kids, follow us. Now it's up to our kids to make that right choice. However, we do our part. So that's my second thing I pulled away from the 13 things of what parents don't do to raise mentally strong kids. Now, my last thing I pulled away from that, my number 3, was that if I want to raise my children to be mentally strong, I will not condone this victim mentality. When I grew up in the Bronx, that's one of the things that was pervasive in my family. We all blamed everyone and everything. Every situation we blamed on everything else, everyone else, not on us. We didn't take full responsibility. It's one thing I've learned now, is that, I am 100% responsible for everything I do and say. Whatever happens to me, I take full responsibility, because I refuse to have this victim mentality. And so I want to empower my kids to know that you have the power of choice. Do not let your joy and your peace of mind and your desire and ability to be happy be dictated by your circumstances. My life is not going to be dictated by my circumstances. It's going to be dictated by my choices, and it's the choice that I make. So that's one thing that I do as a parent, is that I teach my children to not have a victim mentality. So that's one thing that I totally agree on. So those are my top 3 things from the 13 things that parents don't do to raise children that are mentally strong. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I know I went through this fast, but I'd like to know, what are your top 3 things that you don't do? Top 3 things that you don't do to raise mentally strong, resilient kids. Let me know. Okay, guys, every time I finish on here, I always want to remind everyone why I do what I do. Why am I doing this live? Why do I teach what I teach? Why do I do what I do, as a parent and as a teacher? I do everything that I do as a parent and as a teacher, as a community leader, because I believe that the world needs more people to stand up for what they believe in and do the best that they can to be a great role model for their children, for their students, for the community. And I believe that leading the way in humility, leading the way in empathy, in courage, in bravery, and discipline, and self-control, and resilience, in my family and in my community, is a responsibility that I take very, very seriously. And that's why I work so hard. I work so hard with Master Dinoto and my own daughter, Master Liciaga, who's a full-time instructor at Dinoto Karate Center, along with all the other instructors, incredible instructors that we have at DKC, Master Klein, Master McHugh. Then we have our assistant instructors that we are raising up through our instructor training program. We all work together to create this physically and emotionally safe environment where parents can bring their children and grow and thrive so that they meet their goals for more discipline and more focus, more self-control, self-esteem, and empowerment, so that they can live a healthier life, mentally and physically healthy life. If you have not visited our school, I really want to encourage you to come on by. I'd love to have you visit us and see how we do our classes, see how we help our students out, help our parents out. And I'd love to have you guys come on by. So if you want more information, just text me. Information is right there, 856-278-5282. And of course, you can definitely visit our school website at DinatoKarate.com. Other than that, guys, thank so much. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You have a great day. Take care.